Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Leanne and I am the face behind Small Gestures, Vintage and Crafts. So this week is something new for me. I have recently become a stockist for Connie Lines and Designs, and that is a line of decoupage paper that was created by the painted photographer, Connie Hemmer. And I carry that now. I carry it. It will be in my booth in Gainesville, Georgia, at out of the Cedar Chest in my Etsy shop, and I will soon be having a website, so it will be included there as well. So I am creating projects with some of Connie's papers, as well as 4 other creators: Heather from Create Your Own Cozy, Kristen from Simply Joy Creations by Kristen, and Tara from The Reclaimed Ranch, and Treasure from Made with Love. So we're each putting our own spin on our projects. We have no idea what the others are doing, so it'll be interesting to see if some of our great minds are thinking alike. Just kidding, but you know, we are kind of great, but just kidding. Sorry. It's been a long day. So if you're ready, let's just do it. If you are not familiar with Connie Lines and Designs, these images are all hand painted by Connie Hemmer. She is the painted photographer. She paints them using DIY paints and then prints them onto rice paper. And they are so stinking cute. She has so many more designs, more than this. This is just what I have ordered to start with. They will be in my booth at Out of the Cedar Chest in Gainesville, Georgia, on my Etsy shop, and coming soon on my website. Look at those snowmen. They're perfect for little ornaments. They're absolutely adorable. So these are some of the papers that I and the 4 other creators in this week's collab video will be using. So sit back and enjoy. For project number 1 this week, we are using this little hang tag. I got this at Dollar Tree last year, and the little snail paper is called Shelly, and we're going to decoupage one side and attach it to a beaded garland. So I just painted everything white, and I think this is just White Cap by Dixie Belle. It's their silk mineral paint. It all got painted white, and then I came in with Queen Bee on one side of the tag. And I wanted to kind of recreate the watercolor look that Connie has going on in the paper. So I took a little bit of weathered wood and a little bit of white swan, watered it down really well, and then took a natural sea sponge and just did a little bit of sponge painting on top of the yellow. DIY's Liquid Patina is the decoupage medium that I'm using for all the projects, and especially with this rice paper because it is thicker and it's more fibrous. I used a little bit more product, especially on the wood, because it would really just kind of soak right in, but you still spritz the rice paper to help those fibers expand and to help it adhere to the surface. And I decided I didn't want the back of the tag to be plain, so I kind of created a little saying, thank you ChatGPT, for the back of the tag. And I pulled out my Cricut. I've only used it once this year, so it took a little while for it to come back to me on how to create a stencil, but it all worked out. So I applied the stencil to the back of the tag and made sure that it was down really good so I wouldn't have any paint seeping through. And I'm just using White Swan by DIY. And can we just say what a close call that was? Lesson learned, make sure your paint lids are secured at all times. So when everything was completely dry, I just took my finger sander in a downward motion and sanded off the extra paper, and then took my sanding sponge and also just lightly gave a scuff sand to the back side as well. And I wanted to kind of continue the black splatter that Connie puts on so many of her paintings. And I love doing splatter, especially since she taught us her special technique in Wisconsin. So I just got a little bit of Little Black Dress, watered it down really well, and went to town with a fan brush. I really had to laugh because I don't know if you can see, but right on the E in embrace, I have a big black splatter. And 6 months ago, I probably would have painted over that to make it look quote unquote perfect. So it's not lost on me that it happened on the word embrace. So I'm just embracing it. I have this giant long, I guess it's called a doll's needle, that I'm using to string the beads for the beaded garland. I just took some twine and tied a knot. I think it's called a half knot in macrame. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, guys. And just strung some beads on there. And then this is my little tassel board that I have. This is the easiest way and the cleanest way that I know to make a tassel. So I think I wrapped it like 30 times and cut it off. And I just take a couple of long pieces of twine. I just slide it off, and then I put that twine through the loop that I have. I've got that big circle of twine, and I tie it in a good square knot, and then slide that knot so it's actually on the inside of the loop, so you don't see it from the top of the tassel. So I'm just sliding it there on the inside, so the tails of that knot are hanging down on the inside of that loop. So I have my circle of twine, and you can see on the inside there's the knot that I used to tie it all together. So you don't see the knot on the exterior, on the outside of the tassel. So it's all tucked in there, and I take my twine, my extra piece of twine, and I lay it right across the top and then make a little loop up by my left thumb. Right there. And then I hold on to that little loop with my fingers, with my right thumb and right forefinger, and then I start to wrap the twine around the tassel. I don't count, I just wrap until I like the thickness. And then when I'm done wrapping, I take the other end of that twine, and it goes up through that little loop right there that we made in the beginning. And I pull it through, and when you pull on the bottom end of the twine, it will pull that piece down under all of those wrapped pieces. So you have a nice, clean, I don't even know what that's called on the little tassel, but you don't have any knots on the outside. Everything is tucked in where you wrapped around it. So it just makes it look clean, and it's not bulky and anything like that. And then I can just come in with some scissors and cut it really close, and there you go. And now we're going to attach the tassel to the other end of the beaded garland. So I take that long needle and slide it through the top, go through the top, and you can see the needle come out the other end. And I pull it all the way through, and then take the twine that's attached to all of those beads and tie it off. I tie a good tight square knot with that twine, and then a couple of strands from the tassel, so it's not going to go anywhere. Everything is securely attached. Make sure that you do have some slack in your beads and that they're not super tight, otherwise they won't bend very easily. So I just cut everything straight across, and of course where the twine was wrapped, it's a hot mess. So what I like to do is spritz the twine really well, get it good and damp, and then I'll just take a little tiny rubber band and tie around the end of it while it dries to kind of straighten everything out and get all those little kinks out of it. Before I attached the twine to the hang tag, I did go over both sides really good with some of DIY's Big Top. So this collaboration video is also with Heather from Create Your Own Cozy, Kristen at Simply Joy by Kristen, Tara at The Reclaimed Ranch, and Treasure at Made with Love. Now for project number 2 this week, we are using this little decorative metal wall hanging, I guess. I got it at the thrift store for I think $1.50, and I wanted to put this snowflake paper on it, and that's actually the name of it, Snowflake. We're gonna decoupage this and cut out a couple of those extra little snowflakes to go on the side. Before I painted this, I went over it with a couple of coats of Slick Stick by Dixie Belle because it is metal and I wanted the paint to adhere really well. So after that, and after it dried for 24 hours, I just came in with Dixie Belle's white cap. It's their silk mineral paint, and then lined up the rice paper, marked it where I wanted to cut it, and then I cut it over by about, I don't know, I guess 1/4 of an inch, just to allow some wiggle room. I'm just using a little artist brush and some water to go around the rice paper and saturate it really well, just so I can tear out around the design, because we're going to pull out these little snowflakes and put them in some empty spaces on our little wall pocket. I just want to give a shout out and say thank you to Heather at Create Your Own Cozy for asking me to be a part of this collaboration. It's my first one. I'm so excited. In the description box of the video, there will be a link to the playlist of the other 4 creators. When you are done here, please do go check them out. They are 4 incredibly talented women, and I can't wait for you to see the projects that they have come up with. After I decoupaged the main part of the wall pocket and it's dry, then I'm just coming in with those little snowflakes that we tore out of the paper, and again using just some liquid patina, placing them down and then doing another coat of liquid patina on the top. I pulled out some decoupage paper to go inside the little wall pocket, so I'm just making some measurements as to how big of a piece of paper I need, and I'm just cutting it, or marking it actually, and then I'm going in, because this is thick cardstock, so I wanted to make it not so thick. So my favorite technique for doing that is to just take some packing tape, some clear packing tape, and I just put it on the back of the paper in strips on the back of the cardstock. Make sure it's adhered down really well, and then when you peel the tape up, it will peel up some of the layers of the paper, so it is just not quite so thick when you're trying to decoupage with it. And don't ask me why I marked my cut lines before I put the tape down, because it of course pulled the pencil mark up. Since it would have been a little hard to reach and messy, especially for me, to try to paint the liquid patina inside the wall pocket, I just decided to paint it on the back of the paper. And for some reason, I thought that this paper would just slide right in, even though the back was all wet and gluey, but that's okay. We just finagled it and worked gently, and we were able to get it all the way in there. I kind of envisioned some winter floral going in this wall pocket, or holiday cards, or maybe mail through the winter holidays, and I didn't really have some ribbon that I liked with it, so I just pulled out some twine, but I wanted to jazz it up a little bit, and I have some of these little wooden snowflakes, so I pulled out 3 different kinds, 3 different styles, and 2 of each. So I painted one side of all 6 of the little snowflakes just white, some white swan by DIY. And here I have an embossing pad and some sparkly embossing powder. So we are going to make them shine a little bit. And I'm just dipping the painted side into the embossing embossing pad just to get it nice and wet, and then dipping it into the embossing powder. So embossing powders come in all different colors, and when you apply heat to them with a heat gun, they melt and give you, depending on the type of embossing powder, it can give you like a little shimmery surface. So that's what I'm doing here, and I hoped you would be able to see it, but it doesn't really translate very well on my video. Sorry. And the reason I did 6 snowflakes is I'm just taking a little bit of hot glue and twine and gluing the twine in between 2 of the snowflakes, so if they get flipped around, they're decorated on both sides. So I've got my twine with the stars hanging from it, and then I just took a section of kind of like a burlap or twine ribbon and went through that hole, tied a square knot, and then I used just a dab of hot glue on the back to hold both the ribbon and the twine holding the stars in place. Project number 3 this week is these little wooden trays. I have had these in my inventory for quite a while. They had pictures glued onto the bottom of them, and so I had already pulled those out a long time ago and started to clean them up, and then they just kind of sat. So I thought they would be perfect with these papers. This one is Snowman Globe, and then this one is Lee's Father Christmas. And I kind of envisioned them as like little candy dishes. So they had some some paint on the outside that was chipping, so I scraped it off as best I could and then went in with a little bit of sanding. The paint colors for both of these little trays are both by DIY. This is Little Black Dress, and then on the other one we are using Old 57, which is a really bright blue, turquoisey blue. In the middle of the trays, I am painting them both white, White Cap by Dixie Belle, and you don't have to paint it white. I just like to paint white behind decoupage paper because I think it really makes the images pop. So I painted it white, and then on this blue one I noticed on the outside I was getting a little bit of bleed through, so I did go ahead and spray them both down with a couple of coats of shellac. On top of the black and the Old 57, I am using Crinoline by DIY. It's a really nice creamy color, and I actually, I have to ration this. This is all I have of this. I actually brought this back with me from Wisconsin, and it's a perfect color for these papers, but I don't have much of it, so I have to ration it. Lucky for me, Dixie Belle's drop cloth is almost an identical match to the Crinoline, so that is what I use to paint the bottom of the trays. And I'm really glad I shellacked both of those colors in, because now I can come in with my sanding sponge and smooth out any paint strokes that I have and just distress it back a little bit to show that color underneath without messing up the original paint color and muddying up the Crinoline color. And then again with Dixie Belle's liquid patina, and I've sprayed the rice paper, and we're just going to decoupage those images into the middle. You know how I mentioned earlier I like to use a little bit more product with the rice paper? So I actually decided I put the decoupage medium down and then on the tray, and then I also put it on the back of the paper, and I think that worked really well to get some good adhesion between those two. I just used this little edge of the cardboard as a guide with a sharp X-Acto knife to cut off the excess, and then they both got a couple more coats of DIY's Big Top. So for my fourth project this week, it's going to be this little gold frame. And unfortunately, the stand part of the frame is broken off, but it still has the hanger where you can hang it up. And it's got the mat on the inside that also has, that's trimmed out in that gold raised portion. And I thought it would be perfect for this little watercolor by Connie called Merry Tweetmas. After the frame got a good cleaning, then again I came in with drop cloth in Dixie Belle. I thought that was a nice match to the paper color, and the frame and the inset of the mat got 2 coats of paint. Now you certainly could have left the frame gold, but since I painted the frame, I wanted to paint the mat green so it would stand out. So this is Aviary by DIY. So the next morning I came in to distress the frame because I did want to bring back some of that gold finish on the frame, and it was not wet distressing at all. So I came in very gingerly with a fine grit sandpaper sponge and was able to just knock off between the sandpaper and a little moisture, knock off the top part of that chalk paint just to bring back a touch of the gold underneath. After the frame was distressed, then I came in to seal it with some of the Sweet Pickins dark oil wax to get on all the crevices of that frame and to give a nice seal to the paint. So before I put the oil wax on the mat, I went over it with a little bit of liquid patina to seal in that paint. And so I was hoping that it wouldn't absorb so much of the oil wax. I didn't do as good of a job as I thought I did though, because you can see some areas on the in shot where the oil kind of seeped in and it looks like oil. So I got to fix that somehow. And then this is just like a tape runner from my old scrapbooking days that I used on the back of the mat to adhere the little print to. Thank you again for hanging out with me this week. If you enjoyed the projects, I would so appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe. And please go check out the playlist and watch the videos from Heather and Kristen and Tara and Treasure. They are, like I said, incredible creators. I'm proud to call them my friends. Sit down with a glass of water, some tea, some coffee, some wine, whatever your preference is, and relax. And until next week, take care.